സ്ലോട്ടിൽ നിൽക്കുന്നതാണ് പറയുന്നത്. എടാ ആ സാധനം അവിടെ എന്തായാലും മാറില്ല. അത് മാറ്റിക്കും. കൈ പിടിക്കാൻ പറ്റില്ലല്ലേ? ഇല്ലില്ല.
Can you hear me? Sound check. Check. Sound.
Kindly note, dignitaries are about to arrive. Kindly be seated at your places.
Dignitaries are about to arrive. All are requested to kindly occupy their seats. All are requested to kindly occupy their seats. I shall repeat. All are kindly requested to occupy their seats. You can start. No, yes.
सर्वप्रथम यहाँ पर उपस्थित सभी माननीय श्रोतागणों को हमारा सादर प्रणाम। अंतरिक्ष युगों से हमारे लिए प्रेरणा का स्रोत रहा है। प्रौद्योगिकी में त्वरित विकास के साथ अब इसका उपयोग राष्ट्रीय विकास की ओर केंद्रित करने का समय आ गया है। भारतीय अंतरिक्ष अनुसंधान संगठन पिछले 5 दशकों से स्वदेशी प्रौद्योगिकियों के विकास द्वारा राष्ट्रीय विकास में अपना महत्वपूर्ण योगदान देता आ रहा है, लेकिन फिर भी हम कई आवश्यकताओं के लिए विदेशी स्रोतों पर निर्भर रहते हैं। बदलते वैश्विक परिदृश्य के साथ अब मेक इन इंडिया यानी आत्मनिर्भर भारत पर अधिक जोर देने की आवश्यकता है। इन्हीं बातों को ध्यान में रखकर हम यहाँ इस 3 दिवसीय इंजीनियर्स कॉन्क्लेव 2022 के लिए एकत्रित हुए हैं।
A very pleasant good morning to everyone. Engineers Conclave 2022, the annual mega event jointly hosted by Indian Space Research Organization and Indian National Academy of Engineering, aims to bring together experts from multiple domains of engineering to discuss various national challenges and to frame up viable solutions to tackle the same. This conclave will provide a platform for students, entrepreneurs, and professionals to be acquainted with the state-of-the-art technologies and as to how they can be oriented to derive benefit for the nation.
The event mainly focuses on 2 themes: space for national development and making India a global manufacturing hub. The conclave, spanning over 3 days, will include plenary talks by eminent personalities and technical talks on the aforesaid themes.
Myself, Vivek, and my co-host Visruti Gohel deem it a pleasure to extend a very cordial welcome to each one present here.
Before we move on, may I request Dr. V. Narayanan, Director, Liquid Propulsion Systems Center and Chairman, Program Coordination Committee, and Lieutenant Colonel Shobhit Rai, retired, the Member Secretary, Program Coordination Committee, to escort the dignitaries onto the dais.
Thank you, sirs. We begin today's program by invoking the blessings of God Almighty. I request Srimati Madhavi to render the invocation. Request everyone to remain seated.
मैत्रीं भजत अखिलरुजित्रीं मैत्रीं भजत अखिलरुजित्रीम् आत्मवदेव परानपि पश्यत आत्मवदेव परानपि पश्यत युद्धं त्यजत स्पर्धां त्यजत त्यजत परेष्वक्रममाक्रमणं त्यजत परेष्वक्रममाक्रमणं मैत्रीं भजत अखिलरुजित्रीं जननी पृथिवी कामदुगास्ते जननी पृथिवी कामदुगास्ते जनको देवः सकलदयालु जनको देवः सकलदयालु दाम्यतदत्ता दयद्वां जनता दाम्यतदत्ता दयद्वां जनता श्रेयो भूयात् सकलजनानां श्रेयो भूयात् सकलजनानां श्रेयो भूयात् सकलजनानां श्रेयो भूयात् सकलजनानां श्रेयो भूयात् सकलजनानां.
Thank you, ma'am, for the soulful rendition. Dr. V. Narayanan, Director LPSC, a veteran in launch vehicle and satellite propulsion with specific expertise in cryogenic propulsion system, has been pivotal to the development of indigenous cryogenic upper stage for GSLV vehicle. He is the chief architect for the realization of CE-20 engine that played vital role in the successful launch of LVM-3 vehicle in its maiden attempt. A recipient of various prestigious awards like Gold Medal from Astronautical Society of India, Outstanding Achievement Award of ISRO, Distinguished Alumnus Award of IIT Kharagpur. He is a member of various national and international professional bodies like International Aeronautics and Astronautics. He is also the member of Governing Council of INAE. Being the chairman of Program Coordination Committee, of course, he has left no stones unturned to ensure the smooth conduct of the program. May I request you, sir, to formally welcome the gathering and brief us on the theme of the conference.
Very, very good morning to all of you. Honorable Union Minister of State for Electronics, IT, Skill Development and Entrepreneurship, Sri Raju Chandrasekhar, who is the chief guest for this function. Due to preoccupation, he could not come down. Anyhow, his message is there. Most respected and beloved Chairman ISRO, Secretary Department of Space, Sri S. Somanath, President INAE, Professor Indran Nilmanna, Lieutenant Colonel Sabit Ray, Deputy Executive Director INAE, and Member Secretary of Program Coordination Committee, other eminent and most distinguished personalities present in this hall, distinguished fellows, delegates, colleagues, and friends. My greetings to all of you. It is with profound happiness that I stand in front of all of you today, and it is my great privilege as Chairman Program Coordination Committee to welcome each and every distinguished gathering who was assembled here for this mega national event, the Engineers Conclave 2022, organized jointly by ISRO and INAE. This is not a conference, it is totally a conclave. This conclave provides a forum for discussing the important national requirements, come out with actionable recommendation so that it can be pursued and executed. And for this conference, we have kept two important themes. Coming to the Indian National Academy of Engineering, which is founded in 1987, this academy comprises of India's most distinguished, accomplished, and respectable fellows, something around 900 fellows. It functions as an apex body in promoting the best practices in engineering and technology oriented towards the development of this country. Coming to ISRO, you all know ISRO is the National Space Agency of the country, which has developed, realized, and maintained high technology space systems touching every aspect of human life in this country. During the last 66 decades, really the space program has touched every citizen of the country one way or other in ensuring security, safety, and quality life of the common man. And this conclave is jointly organized by INAE and ISRO. Let me extend my very sincere gratitude to Chairman ISRO, Secretary Department of Space, and President INAE for giving an opportunity to ISRO centers and units located in Trivandrum for the first time to organize this conclave in a befitting manner, that too in this beautiful campus of Liquid Propulsion System Center. In this campus, most of you may be knowing, we carry out design, development, and realization of liquid propellant-based propulsion systems and control systems for launch vehicles, as well as satellite propulsion thrusters. Engineers Conclave 2022 shall be focusing on, as I told, two important themes: the space for national development, which is really a very, very apt theme. Even though we have done a lot of things, now we have to discuss and debate what is yet to be done and how to really make the country as a developed country by contributing in an apt manner. And the second important theme is the making India a global manufacturing hub. This is also a very, very important theme because we are having lot of technical graduates and lot of technical brain in this country. And it is the very, very apt topic which is selected. I am sure during the next 3 days, the plenary talks, whatever you have planned, and 39 detailed lectures, whatever you have planned, will really enlighten all the participants, and we are going to come out with really actionable and quantifiable outcomes and recommendations. It is our great privilege that this conclave shall be inaugurated in absentia by none other than Sri Rajiv Chandrasekhar, Honorable Union Minister of State for Skill Development and Entrepreneurship, as well as Electronics and Information Technology. As a technologist by himself, he has always been closely associated with both ISRO and INAE one way or other. On this occasion, on behalf of me and on behalf of all of you, let me extend a very, very warm and hearty welcome to our Chief Guest of the function, Sri Rajiv Chandrasekhar. Coming to our most respected and beloved Chairman ISRO, Mr. Sri Somanath, who is also the chairperson of this Engineers Conclave 2022. He doesn't need any introduction to this august audience. A leader par excellence who has ably led technical teams, ably leading the technical teams towards great mission success. Especially, his significant contribution in the area of all launch vehicles of ISRO. He has shown personal interest. When President INAE approached him, he immediately accepted to host this conclave by ISRO team, and he has really guided us, and made all the arrangements. And on this occasion, let me extend a very, very hearty welcome to you, sir. This function today is being presided over by Professor Dr. Indranil Manna, President INAE, a very, very dynamic leader who is the co-chairperson of EC 2022. He is a professor from IIT Kharagpur, former director of IIT Kanpur, director CGCRI, and currently VC of BITS, Ranchi. He is a JC Bose fellow who has got numerous awards and distinctions. Really, God has given him not 24 hours per day, I think 48 hours per day. The type of activities what he is doing, including the INA activities, it's very, very mind-boggling. It is great job he is doing. It is his initiative we got the opportunity to host this conference here today. On behalf of the entire organizing committee of EC 2022, let me extend a very, very hearty welcome to you, sir. Lieutenant Colonel Sobhit Roy, Deputy Executive Director, INAE, really, he is the person in the Delhi office executing all the activities of INAE. And he has contributed as the Member Secretary of Program Coordination Committee very significantly for this conclave. Let me also welcome on behalf of all of you, the Deputy Executive Director of INAE. Now, I have to really mention a couple of few of our great veterans who have really mentored, guided all of us in organizing this conference, rather the conclave. That is Dr. B.N. Suresh, former Director VSSC, Founder Director IAST, and the former President of INAE and current Chancellor of IAST. Also Dr. B.S. Goyal, former Director URSC, former Secretary Ocean Development and Earth Sciences. But for both of them, really, we were directionless. We didn't know how to go, but I think, sir, your guideline, your mentorship is so outstanding. That's why we could do this conclave in a befitting manner. Let me welcome, on behalf of all of us, both the great veterans. Let me also welcome Dr. Sanak Misra, who is the earlier former President of INAE and former CEO of Steel Authority of India, as well as very distinguished personalities who are all here from academic area and technical areas. A very hearty welcome to all of you, sirs. The Engineers Conclave is being jointly organized by ISRO centers and units located in Thiruvananthapuram. VSSC, LPSC, IASU and IAST together, we are organizing this. First, I am so happy to welcome my close friend, Dr. Unnikrishnan Nair, Director VSSC and IAST, and the co-chairman of the organizing committee, who has really helped in a big way in organizing this conclave. Then, Dr. Sam Dayal Dev, currently the Director IASU, and earlier he was also holding the additional charge of IAST. He is with us. He was the organizing committee member, and he has really contributed in a significant way. Let me welcome Dr. Sam Dayal Dev. As told earlier, we have two themes. The success of the conclave is in executing the proper talk, arranging proper talk, plenary lecture on these two themes. So we have put two theme coordinators, Dr. Prakash Chauhan, Director NRC, who is the theme coordinator for Space for National Development, and Sri Arun T. Ramchandani from L&D, FNAE, who is the coordinator for the theme Making India a Global Manufacturing Hub. Really, both of them, really they have done outstanding work. They have done excellent work, organized all the speakers, discussed with the speakers, and brought the best speakers from the country for these two teams. On this occasion, let me also extend a very, very warm welcome to these two team coordinators. It is my privilege to welcome the honorable members of Program Coordination Committee, Sri Sivaji Chakravarti, co-chairman of PCC and Vice President of INAE, and Sri Sastri, Sri Ananda Suresh. A hearty welcome to all of you. Today, we are also privilege. Dr. Sailesh Nagi sir is going to join. I'm not sure whether he has already reached. He is going to join. He is the former Secretary Department of Earth Sciences who shall be delivering the plenary talk. I am very happy to welcome him. I am also very happy to welcome Mr. Grieswag, Executive Director Tata Motors, who is going to share his excellent thoughts in the plenary talk. We will have 6 plenary talks by eminent personalities and 39 talks on both the themes in parallel sessions. Let me extend a very, very hearty welcome to all the speakers who have readily accepted our invitation and taken all the pain to reach Thiruvananthapuram. Assembled here today are about 400 delegates consisting of the most distinguished. Who is who we can tell. Each fellow is their own great persons in their own field, contributed significantly for this country's growth. And my colleagues, ISRO centers and unit directors, our Assistant Secretary, Department of Space, and the persons from academia, industries, and student community. Let me extend a very, very warm welcome to each and every one of you on this occasion. To organize this 3-day conclave, including various logistics, exhibition, cultural program, etc., we have formed a number of organizing committees and 11 subcommittees. I think they have done very, very marvelous and significant job to make it a grand success. On this occasion, I am not going to mention their names. All the chairpersons, secretaries, and members of all the committees, let me, on behalf of me and on behalf of each and every one of you, welcome for this great function. On behalf of ISRO centers and units located in Thiruvananthapuram, on behalf of all the 3 directors, let me assure you, you will have best time during these 3 days, and that too in the beautiful campus located in Valiamala, where we are having Good Propulsion System Center, and the next campus we are having IAST. And we assure you, your stay will be really comfortable, enriching, and pleasant. With this, let me thank you, each and every one of you. Thank you. Jai Hind.
Thank you, sir, for that warm welcome. Now, on behalf of the organizing committee, we extend a warm welcome to you as well, sir. Professor Indranil Manna, President INAE, Vice Chancellor, Birla Institute of Technology, Ranchi, Co-Chairperson of Engineers Conclave 2022, is presiding over today's function. He is an educationist and a material engineer with wide range of research interests, especially in the field of nanomaterials and ceramics. He held various key positions like Director IIT Kanpur, Director CSIR CGCRI, President Indian Institute of Metals. He was also the National Coordinator of Imprint, a unique technology development initiative of MHRD. In his illustrious career, he has traveled across the world as a visiting scientist to various renowned institutions and universities. He has many awards and numerous publications in national and international journals to his credit. He is a fellow member of multiple professional bodies in India and abroad. To name a few, the World Academy of Science, Asia Pacific Academy of Materials. He was also a DAD and Humboldt Fellow in Germany. He is a recipient of multiple awards, awards from Ministry of Steel, the World Academy of Sciences Prize for Engineering Sciences, the MRSI Medal, the Binani Gold Medal, the GD Birla Gold Medal of IAM, Distinguished Alumnus Award of IIT Kharagpur, AICTE Career Award for Young Teachers, and INSA Medal for Young Scientists, and it goes on. Sir, it is indeed my pleasure and privilege to invite you to deliver the presidential address.
Thank you so much. Shri Rajiv Chandrasekhar, Honorable Minister of State for the Ministry of Electronics and Information Technology and Skill Development and Entrepreneurship. Mr. S. Somnath, Chairman ISRO and Secretary Department of Space, and also the Chairman of the Organizing Committee of EC 2022. Dr. V. Narayanan, my good friend and Director, LPSC, ISRO, Trivandrum. Dr. Unnikrishnan Nair, Director, VSSC and IIST. Dr. S.D. Dev, Director, IISU. Dr. Prakash Chauhan, Director, NRSC. I see Mr. Patil has just joined us, also Mr. Ramchandrani. Mr. Girish Walk came from Tata Motors. Our esteemed former presidents of INE, Dr. Suresh, Dr. Goel, Dr. Mishra, esteemed fellows of Indian National Academy of Engineering, esteemed colleagues from ISRO various units, members of the engineering fraternity, dear friends, members of the press, and ladies. It's my proud privilege to welcome you all to this 9th edition of the Engineers Conclave 2022. Though a large concentration of the fellows of INE are present here, but it's my august duty to make a mention of few of the activities that we do and the basic mandate that we pursue. INE was founded on 20th April 1987. At the moment, we have close to about 1,000 fellows on our roll, out of which about 100 are from the foreign countries. This academy in the past was headed by luminaries, including a former president of this country, Dr. APJ Abdul Kalam. I was curious to go through the list of my predecessors, most illustrious predecessors, and I realized that 3 of them came from this very organization, ISRO. Then 3 of them came from Department of Atomic Energy. 2 of them came from DRDO, 3 from academia, and 2 from industry. So that shows that the kind of mix we have in INE, we draw our strength equally from academia, R&D organizations, and of course, various industrial sectors. We are proud to say that INE represents the most eminent leaders of India's engineering and technology fraternity. INE holds consultative forum with nearly about 8 different organizations, including DST, SERP, ISRO, Atomic Energy, DRDO, CSIR, AICT. It only shows that INE is consciously always trying to pursue agenda in the direction of engineering technology with all those organizations that matter to this country. These consultative forums essentially are meant for designing and defining specific agenda that the country needs for its growth, not just economic growth, but in the vision of the Honorable Prime Minister for Atmanirbharta, or self-reliance. INE represents India in the Council of Engineering and Technological Societies of the entire world. So we are the rightful torchbearer in the international forum on behalf of the country in engineering and technology. INE actually caters to a very wide age group, starting from those who are in the engineering colleges. We try to identify talents in the engineering students through the Innovative Student Project Awards. And we continue to scout the talents in various age groups as young engineers within the age group of 35, Kalam Fellows, entrepreneur awardees, of course, the fellows of the academy, and we even go all the way up to the most eminent and senior peers of the country and award them Lifetime Achievement Awards. But INE does much more than just scouting the talents and awarding them. INE pursues specific engineering agenda. For example, Dr. Goel is heading an initiative which is going to create a document, a volume, which should provide directions to the country how to tackle with national disruptions. In the past, we have had several engineering forum, an engineering discussion forum, through which we came out with specific recommendations in the area of habitat, energy, water, waste utilization, and many other aspects. We have 10 sections, and these are not subject-specific. These are end application-specific, and they cover the entire spectrum of engineering and technology. We publish our own journal, Transactions of the Indian National Academy of Engineering. We publish and print certain status reports on specific themes. We celebrate the most important national events like National Science Day on 28th February, Engineers Day on 15th September, Technology Day on 11th May, and of course our own Foundation Day on 20th of April. And we celebrate by way of identifying a specific topic in which we invite either a panel or an eminent personality to speak. But it's not just one-way discourse, we also deliberate. For example, in the last Foundation Day, we deliberated upon National Education Policy 2020. And you all are aware that the principal author of National Education Policy is none other than Dr. Kasturirangan, former chairman ISRO and also former president of Indian National Academy of Engineering. And when we discuss all these, we actually invite the most eminent personalities who actually matter to the country in making the policy. INE actually is very keen not just to act as an apex body, as collection of the topmost peers in the country, but actually work for the development of the country, and again, towards Atmanirbharta. Why do we celebrate every year Engineers Conclave? We are an engineering academy, and we want to make a difference to the country's progress through engineering intervention. This particular initiative started in 2013 with DRDO as our partner, and since then every year we choose specific themes. To be precise, 2 specific themes, one by the host organization, which this year is going to be on space for national development. That's the topic selected by ISRO. And INE itself chooses another topic of its own, which INE feels should be the most topical item for the present context. And in this year, you are all aware, we are going to discuss on making India a hub for manufacturing. In terms of manufacturing, I want to throw some numbers before you, which will explain as to why it is so important in today's context. I was going through certain data and figured out that in terms of manufacturing, the nation which tops the list is China, with 2010 billion output, which accounts for 27% of its own GDP, of China's own GDP, and also accounts for 20% of the entire world's contribution to manufacturing. USA comes next with $1867 billion contribution, 12% to its own GDP, and accounts for 18% of the entire world's manufacturing. We tend to believe that India is lagging far behind. Actually not. India today occupies the 5th position with $298 billion worth of contribution towards engineering, which accounts for 16% of our own GDP. But that is only 3.1% of the total world's manufacturing worth. So we have a lot of room to cover. In terms of manufacturing, it's also interesting and at times gratifying to note that in steel we are number 2, in cement we are number 2, in automobile I thought it's number 4, fourth position, but Mr. Wog corrected me, it's number 5. But in earth movers, India is the largest manufacturer. In chemicals, we occupy the 9th position. And in handicrafts, India is the largest exporter in the entire world. Might sound quite unbelievable, but it's true. Until the beginning of the 18th century, India was one of the richest nations in the whole world. And history definitely provides us many evidences, which is why the entire world was at one time so keen to come to India. And now it is time that we should regain our pristine glory. But then when you talk about India and its current scenario, there are certain facts and figures which cannot be missed out. On the positive side, we are the second most populous nation and soon probably will be the most populous state in the whole world with 1.42 billion population as on today. With $3.46 trillion, we are the 5th largest economy in nominal terms, but with $11.66 trillion, we are the 3rd largest purchase power parity-wise economy in the whole world. The GDP is growing at 6 to 8%. We have reasons to be very proud of the exploits made by none other than ISRO in terms of the successful mission to the Mars and Moon. We are the 7th nation in the world in terms of nuclear energy harnessing potential. But that's all that make us proud, and there are many more. But let's not forget that there's a flip side. And the flip side tells us that we also are a nation with a very rich diversity. Altogether, 37 states and union territories, 22 official languages, 8 official religions practiced in this very country. We cannot forget that though we are the 3rd largest purchase power parity economy in the world, in terms of per capita income, we certainly don't occupy a very glorious position. In fact, I figured out that even our neighbors like Bhutan and Sri Lanka, they also are ahead of us, of course, because of our smaller population. The Global Innovation Index, we are improving. In last 10 years, from 2012, we have improved from 64th to 40th position in the whole world. But that certainly is not doing justice to the demographic dividend that this country has. The average age is 28. We are the youngest nation in the world. We have reasons to boast of the institutions like IITs and various other technological universities in the country. The gross enrollment ratio is somewhere around 20%. The Honorable Prime Minister wants this to go as high as 25 right now, and NEP 2020 envisages that by 2050 we should have more than 50% of GER. There are nations much smaller than us who actually have a much better GER. But in my opinion, one of the biggest puzzles that we need to solve is the fact that agriculture engages 54% of the population, but contributes only 14% to our GDP. The service sector, including finance and IT, contributes to 53% of our economy, but engages only 18 or 20% of the population. Manufacturing today contributes anywhere between 50 to 20%. There was a time when India's total economy was served by 40% from the manufacturing sector, not too long ago. So we have to come back. The other day, Chairman ISRO gave me a very gratifying opportunity to listen to some of the major exploits ISRO has already done and is going to do very soon in terms of planting some 36 satellites in one single mission. Now, if this is possible, if we have such pioneering institutions who are actually leaders in the whole world, like ISRO, like atomic energy, many of us probably won't know that railway is the largest employer in the whole world as a single organization. So there are many firsts, many seconds, there are many eminent personalities, eminent groups, world-renowned organizations who are international trademarks. Yet, if we look at the flip side that I mentioned in terms of Human Development Index, in terms of energy consumption per capita, in terms of innovation index, there's a lot to be done. And in my humble opinion, all these are possible, at least to a large extent, when this country actually harnesses its full potential in engineering and technology. If this country really has to live up to the expectation and ambition of the Honorable Prime Minister to be Atmanirbhar, there's no other way than to pursue engineering and technology to its fullest extent. And we have great institutions, great organizations, very eminent personalities. Put together all our might. It is only our will. If we have that, we certainly will succeed. And not later, but sooner. Indian National Academy of Engineering is very keen to make a difference in that direction. And I hope that the leadership of the country realizes that Indian National Academy of Engineering is not a major brick and mortar institution, but basically is a collection of individuals who all are most patriotic and are most willing to contribute to the growth and prosperity of this nation. We would like to contribute to the best of our ability to make India truly Atmanirbhar. On this very auspicious occasion of EC 2022, it is my proud privilege again to welcome you all and engage you all in a deliberation which will give us very important actionable recommendations at the end of the 3-day deliberations. And that, in my opinion, certainly is going to make a huge difference. But before I end, I'll be failing in my duty if I don't record our deepest gratitude to Sri Somnath, Chairman ISRO, for being a gracious host. And Dr. Narayanan mentioned, to my surprise, when I first mentioned, within a second he said, yes, of course, we'll do it. Such was the alacrity with which ISRO embraced the request from INE. We are truly grateful for that. I must also make a mention of two specific individuals, Dr. V. Narayanan and Mr. Ramchandrani of L&T, because these two are the key persons who are steering the two major themes of EC 2022. The other person who is walking behind the scene, and not many of you probably would have noticed, is Shivaji Chakravarti, Vice President INE, in charge of Engineers Conclave. And all of us know that Shivaji works quietly, but very steadily. The INE office, led by Colonel Rai and rest of the colleagues, as always, have done a marvelous job. And I'm sure for the next 3 days, we are going to have a very exciting and a fruitful time. So I wish you all the very best. Thank you very much. Jai Hind.
Thank you, sir, for your inspiring messages and shedding light on the activities of INE and bringing in light significant numbers. Shri Rajiv Chandrasekhar, Honorable Minister of State for IT, Electronics, Skill Development and Entrepreneurship, is a great technocrat come entrepreneur who passionately works to make India a manufacturing hub for the export of electronic goods. He is the apt person to inaugurate such an event that focuses on making India a dominant player in manufacturing. Though he is not physically present here today due to certain urgent preoccupation, he has kindly consented to formally inaugurate the event through a video message. The video will be displayed after lighting the lamp. Now may I request Chairman ISRO Shri S. Somnath and other dignitaries on the dais to join for lighting the traditional lamp. Thank you all. Now I shall seek your attention on the screen for the video message.
Person EC 2022, Professor Indralil Manna, Dr. V. Narayanan, Lieutenant Colonel Shobhit Rai, other distinguished dignitaries, INEA AE fellows, senior directors and scientists of ISRO, eminent industry persons, academia, and other delegates of the Engineers Conclave 2022. Thank you for inviting me to speak here today, and thank you for being here at this Engineers Conclave 2022. I'm indeed happy to be here for the inauguration of this conclave, a forum to discuss important national issues with respect to the latest developments in engineering, science, and technology. And it is particularly heartening to note that it is being organized jointly by the Indian National Academy of Engineering, the INAE, and of course, one of India's premier institutions and organizations, ISRO. It is also important to note that we are doing this, you are arranging this conclave as the nation celebrates its 75th year of independence. As we look back on our 75-year journey and we look forward to the coming 25 years and decide and determine what type of a future we want to build for our country, not just in terms of economics and economy and opportunities for our young Indians, but also in terms of the capabilities and capacities that we want to build in the technology and science fields in the coming years and decades. The Honorable Prime Minister has referred to the coming decade as India's decade, and he has done this with real reason and with real insight. With the post-COVID digitization of the world being at an all-time high, the opportunities for Indian innovation and Indian entrepreneurship in a sense has been reimagined and reset. And as a country and as a people, we are today embarked on a journey where we are reimagining our ambitions, reimagining the goals that we aspire to in terms of a $5 trillion digital economy and a $1 trillion digital economy. But most importantly, the fact that from over 3 decades of being a nation that consumed technology, that in the coming decade and coming years, India will emerge as a nation that will architect, design, execute devices, products, platforms, and solutions in the tech space. And from being over 30 years as a follower of most technologies, be amongst the leading pack of nations that will shape and decide the future of technology as we see it in the coming decades. The opportunities that today our government and our Prime Minister has opened up for the coming generation of engineers and entrepreneurs and young Indians range from the internet on one hand, space, electronics, semiconductor, high performance computing, artificial intelligence, the blockchain, Web 3.0, and a whole myriad of opportunities where Indian youngsters and Indian students and engineers can demonstrate their capability, create world-class products, solutions, and devices that can be part of the world's requirements of the next generation of solutions, platforms, and products. In particular, the space sector, to which I was graciously invited by Mr. Somnath very recently to participate in the space innovation ecosystem and the startup ecosystem launch in Bengaluru, has shown remarkable progress and remarkable response from young Indians and young engineers all across the country. The space, as famously Wernher von Braun, the pioneer of space travel, used to say, the reason for nations to make investments in space and space technologies is that the work in the space area almost certainly creates cutting-edge solutions in the non-space segments that we are seeing today. The first high compute chips were used in the early spacecraft that went up to the moon and in space, and the entire compute ecosystem that developed as a consequence of those early pioneering innovations and early pioneering research and development works can be completely credited to the work in space. So it is clear that for us as a nation that is aspiring to and has an ambition to build a decade, an India decade, space and innovations in space and technology and R&D and developments in the space sector are absolutely vital to the development of many adjacent segments of our technology ecosystem, or indeed adjacent segments of our economy and life as we know it. ISRO is one of the organizations that make us and has made us for several decades proud to be Indian because of its achievements and its accomplishments in really the cutting edge of technology and cutting edge of platforms and solutions. And it is an organization, I think, one of the first organizations in India that achieved the Honorable Prime Minister's goals of Atmanirbharta and has brought pride and glory to our nation and to all Indians. Our Chandrayaan and Mangalyaan missions were glorious achievements which have received international recognition and have added significantly to the awe and respect that the world has about India and all things technology that emerges from India. We have launched over 350 satellites from more than 36 countries at very cost-effective rates, and in a lot of ways have reset the entire space and launch industry, satellite launch industry that otherwise used to be a monopoly or a duopoly of a few nations. I see these kind of conclaves where bright minds from all across India sit down and talk about their future, discuss their present, as very important parts of the overall discourse that will lead to the fulfillment of our Prime Minister's goal of making India truly a world leader in the future of technology and leading the nations of the world, enterprises of the world, consumers of the world, and giving them the cutting-edge products and solutions that the world of the future is clearly going to see by way of disruptive nature of technology that we can all easily predict today will be the new normal in the coming years. In space, the arm of Indian National Space Promotion and Authorization Center in space, which acts as an arm of ISRO to guide and promote space innovation, space startups, is doing a wonderful work in catalyzing the imagination and bringing to bear the energies and determination and innovation skills of many hundreds of Indian engineers and entrepreneurs from around the country. And I think has the potential to revolutionize India's space industry. And I quote the Honorable Prime Minister when he says, in space is for space, in space is for pace, and in space is for ace. So said our Honorable Prime Minister just a few months ago. In terms of our own focus on technology as a nation, you are very aware that in addition to our capabilities that we have built over the last several years, we have embarked on a journey of becoming a leading player in the world's value chains of electronics and semiconductors. The Honorable Prime Minister launched a scheme in December 2021 with over $10 billion or 76,000 crores of funding support to encourage investments in semiconductor manufacturing, semiconductor packaging and testing, and both in silicon and compound, both in low power and high power. And also, very importantly, he has set aside almost $200 million or 1,000 crores plus for encouraging startups in the semiconductor design segment. And we will see, it is our ambition that the next generation of devices in compute, in mobility, in automotive, the next gen devices are all devices that are either co-developed by Indian entrepreneurs or are developed by Indian entrepreneurs solely as a consequence of this type of support that our government intends to provide to startups in the design ecosystem for semiconductors. I think it is clear to all those who follow technology closely, we are entering into an era of great disruption and great change in the entire technology space and the technology economy space. And I think there is an unprecedented opportunity for engineers and entrepreneurs from India to play an absolutely leading and lasting contribution in shaping the future of the technology products, technology devices, and technology solutions in the coming years, and certainly in the coming decade, which is India's decade. Again, I thank you for welcoming me to this program. Thank you for your attention to my few words that I had to share with you. And I hope and I wish you the very best in this Engineers Conclave 2022. Thank you all. Jai Hind. Namaskaram.
Thank you, sir, for that inspiring opening to the occasion where he clearly drove home the relevance of this kind of conclaves in the national interest. Now, I request Sri S. Somnath, Chairman ISRO, Secretary Department of Space, and Chairperson Engineers Conclave 2022, to release the book of abstracts. Thank you all. Before we move on to the keynote address, I request dignitaries on the dais to occupy the seats in the front row, and I request respected Chairman ISRO to kindly remain on the stage. Sir, it is indeed a great privilege to have with us Sri S. Somnath, Chairman ISRO, Secretary Department of Space, for this function. With his versatile personality, he has proven his mettle in all frontiers of space technology. His immense contributions in the development of PSLV and LVM-3 span over its overall architecture, design of propulsion stages, vehicle integration, and structural dynamics. He successfully spearheaded the maiden attempt of ISRO's prestigious LVM-3 X-Care mission. Under his dynamic leadership, the indigenous cryogenic propulsion has matured and the development of semi-cryogenic technology was initiated. His guidance is pivotal in the development of new launch vehicles, such as small satellite launch vehicles, and he was also instrumental in the development of technologies such as electric propulsion and locksmithine propulsion. A strong supporter of the space technology startups in India, He is a former Vice President of International Astronautical Federation and presently Vice President to International Astronautical Federation. He is a Fellow of Indian National Academy of Engineering and corresponding member of International Academy of Astronautics. It is under his able guidance, ISRO is embarking on a bunch of ambitious projects like Gaganyaan, Aditya L1 mission, Chandrayaan 3 mission, reusable launch vehicle, and so on. Sir, it is my proud privilege to invite you to deliver the keynote address.
Good morning, all of you. We just had that inaugural session, and I would like to take this opportunity to greet each one of you for being here on this Engineers Conclave, jointly organized by INAE and ISRO. Why they are putting this slide? Go to the first slide and put it. Put the first slide. I do not know how you know how to operate PowerPoint. Is there a mouse? Okay. Should I take this slide? I think we should move this lamp out. Good morning once again. Sorry for that small hiccup. So it's a great honor to be here to host this conference of Engineers Conclave 2022 in LPSC. When this idea was told by Dr. Suresh, Professor Manna to us, then both Dr. Narayana and myself discussed and then readily agreed for this conference with certain goals. The first and foremost is, of course, the hosting of this really brings you people here. Eminent engineers of INAE to LPSC Valiyamala. We thought that it is a great thing to have you all here to see what we do in ISRO, familiarize with those institutions around here, LPSC, IAST, IASU, and VSSC, and also to be away from the hustle of the northern part, come to the southernmost part of India. May not be really a comfortable time, but I think it is okay. As far as temperature is concerned, I think all of you will have a very nice stay, a peaceful state of mind to deliberate on two important topics that the theme that has been set out, to look at the space for national development and also to look at how we have to look at India as a manufacturing hub. While these themes were being shaped, Dr. Suresh was mentoring us on how to write the theme and how they should differentiate, but also to show that they are connected in a way. So we selected these two themes primarily because of the connect and also the goals that we already set in the initial talks by Professor Manna. How the Amrit Kal, from the 75th year of our independence to when we travel through another 25 years, when we celebrate our 100th year of independence, how these two sectors are going to contribute to the goals that are set by our Honorable Prime Minister Modi. And I had the fortune to discuss here some of those discussions happening in Delhi, especially those discussions on how we should work and envision to take India to a global player in the next 25 years. And various sectors are being discussed. And it's really very interesting to listen to all those sectoral committees or secretaries which are debating based on the input which are collected from all across the country. I think this deliberation happening today in this conclave really can feed very valuable information to that particular goal of government to look at and framework to be created in the next 25 years, how we should move forward in different sectors. And especially in space sector, we have an interest that today the space sector is also going through a large amount of reforms, as all of you are aware, which has been well discussed, debated, written. But then connecting it to manufacturing activity is something very, very important. And all through the many years that the manufacturing sector has been supporting the space program in building rockets, satellites, etc. But now we are looking at the manufacturing sector to take on the entire role of providing the solutions. So here, there are certain objectives, goals that we want to set forth in front of all of you to debate on it, to come out with specific actions and directions that, of course, we can share with the government. And this is something that we are looking for. We are also looking at all of you to be here at Valiyamala. The Valiyamala, the big hill. You are at the foothills of the big hill. The name literally means that it is a big hill. This is a place where we started many important programs of ISRO. The PSLV development happened here. Dr. Madhavan Nair, Dr. Srinivasan, they worked here for 10 years plus to develop the PSLV. And this is a place where the engines, the Vikas engine was developed. Dr. Muthanayagam worked here, Nampi Narayan worked here. Then the cryogenic engine technology was developed here. The GSLV Mark III, most of the propulsion modules were developed here. And when Dr. Suresh took up the responsibility to build the IAST, he found the part of that to be created along with LPSC using the 50-acre land that is adjacent to it. So this facility where I came here at 37 years back was a terrain which was hilly. Today it has been developed into a complex facility having an ability to build engines and thrusters for satellites and launch vehicles. So I wish all of you will be able to find some time to go around and familiarize yourself with the laboratories and infrastructure that has been built. It will be really an eye-opener to all of you in terms of the complex engineering activity that is being happening here. So it's also an invitation to all of you to see and experience yourself. So with that introduction, let me give a talk on the future perspective of space ecosystem. The evolution of the Indian space program, I think all of you are aware. I don't have to dwell much on it. In the late 60s, when we started this program, and all through the journey in the last many years, today we have at a place where we look at the expansion beyond that what we have achieved. In terms of the capability that we have developed, I think all of you are aware that we are now recognized as somebody who can dream and build systems within India in terms of the observational capability, in terms of the launching capability, in terms of the science that we have done at frugal engineering ways and at a very low cost. So at this time, when we look at the expansion phase and opening of the space sector, what I thought is that I should give an impression to you that what we think within the organization in terms of this transformation that we want to achieve. And many of this, what I am going to present, are not really the policy of ISRO, but these are some of the objectives that I have put as personally in front of the entire community to debate, discuss, and then come out with clear action plans within the organization. And at this time, when I speak about this to you, the engineers, the eminent engineers of India, I think your assessment of these ideas are most welcome. In terms of the launch vehicle capability that we have traveled from the sounding rockets to the GSLV Mark III, from a capability of 40 kilogram to 4,000 kilogram. We also did many scientific missions in terms of the scramjet propulsion, the reusable rocket, the return of an orbital space vehicle back to the sea at the precise location. It all says that the organization has created a capability in terms of the engineering, end-to-end capability in terms of materials, mission management, manufacturing, assembly, testing, electronics, and whatnot. So the entire understanding of the science behind this has really been captured by the organization in the last many years. In terms of the observational capability by using satellite, this is also something very phenomenal. The journey of the space program started in looking at how applications can be developed out of the spacecrafts. And the key element of application was observational capability in terms of the spatial resolution, the temporal resolution, as well as the improvement of the spectral resolution. So all these have been growing in the last many years in commensurate with the technology availability in the world. And we were able to build satellites for both thematic satellites, land, ocean, atmosphere, science, meteorology, in various layers, which gives a lot of services today. And I will quickly discuss some of them in the next slides. In terms of the communication technology, we again demonstrated that the communication technology is so important for the country while we started the journey of space program through the SITE program. But later, we understood this technology by collaborating with other satellite builders and started building satellites of our own. And today, ISRO is the only provider of space-based services for the communication sector. And we provide this as a form of transponder leasing through the INSAT GSAT capability. But more than that, changing with the times, the high throughput satellites have been already integrated, and probably you are aware that we started the high throughput satellite service also through the Hughes recently. And this also will provide you the internet services from GEO for institutional users. So this is really something wonderful, and we have a host of SATCOM user segment in the private making use of the ISRO satellites. Another novel development was NAVIC IRNSS, and this came about at a time when we were worried that the GPS could be denied and there could be impact of this in the strategic sector. And this prompted us to create the regional navigation system with the 7 satellite constellation, and we launched 8. One couldn't reach. But then the purpose of this, the NAVIC creation was though such strategic. We looked at how it can be also be civilian use also can be explored out of it, and that activity is still continuing, and not one something I can say it has fructified into very tangible outcome. But I can tell you that it is penetrating slowly into the civilian sector. But that is not the primary goal. The primary goal of NAVIC continued to remain as the service to the strategic sectors. Again, we always speak about space technology for the service of humanity. And this is through well-defined programs that we make, not only building rockets and satellites, but also thematize the whole idea into various domains like the water security, food security, energy security, information security, infrastructure, health and shelter, and then disaster risk reduction, sustainable development, and look at the sustainable development goals and how space-based services can serve these sectors. And this has been one of the important activity of Department of Space and ISRO to connect with the governments, ministries, departments, states, and then provide the services. I think through this only the ISRO has made the name in terms of a end-to-end service provider, and we continue to work on this over the many years. For example, the contribution to the blue economy through the services that we give from satellites in terms of the potential fishing zone advisory, the rip current forecast, ocean state forecast, and also forecasting of the at various elements which also contribute to the modeling, ocean energy estimates, offshore wind energy, for example, and we look at all this to contribute to the concerned departments of the government of India dealing with this ocean development as well as blue economy. Look at NAVIC and also is connect with the fishermen through the potential fishing zone advisory. You know, Indian coastland is something very unique and one of the longest, and a lot of people depending on this coastlines for its survival, economy, etc. So even for government, blue economy is one of the very important domain that they have announced, and we have been able to demonstrate this technology of use of NAVIC to the fishermen through fish landing center advisory, also messaging services that are existing through these satellites. Green economy is another area which was one of the pioneering works in, of course, that we are going to listen to some of our experts speaking about it later, on supporting various activities in agriculture in terms of the crop harvesting, production for estimates for various 8 of the crops, inventory and site suitability assessment for different crops, insurance support, food security assessment for various crops, pest infestation, etc., etc. So this continue to be one of the important domain, and we look at how we can put appropriate sensors. One of the recent launch of radar imaging satellite was specifically for it. And recently we have been in discussion with the Department of Agriculture to look at how we can form thematize the activity in this agriculture sector and launch a Krishi satellite. Bharat Krishi satellite is a theme that we have proposed, and they have taken it very earnestly and working towards defining this satellite for supporting the agriculture sector. Geospatially, e-governance is another area where the support from space is used by multiple ministries to support the flagship programs like the irrigation infrastructure monitoring, waste and watershed management, urban development transformation, which are thematized again, public benefit schemes, decentralized government, rural connectivity, disaster management, etc., etc. So this is another domain where there are a lot of projects being handled by our agencies like NRSC and other regional remote sensing centers. Now, at this point, let me stop here and then talk not about what we did, what we are, but what we need to be in envisioning the future. To make a quick assessment of the world scenario, let us look at how the global space scenario exists. Just for example, the USA and Europe. I think all of you are aware in the last 10 years or so, we have been witnessing a significant transformation of private ecosystem emerging in space as a service provider in terms of designing and developing, launching reusable rockets. National Space Agency talking too much about moon economy. Space tourism definitely there and shown that it is possible to have an operational space tourism activity which will produce economic benefits. Private space stations are coming up. For example, the Blue Origin they recently announced that they will be building their space tour station, and the International Space Station may soon be retired. And the activities in space sector is actually working towards a space force, and every nation in the world are looking towards strengthening this space ecosystem to support the national security. Of course, many of the discussions in this domain in these two countries are towards some of the themes which I mentioned here. And it is less on segments which we used to speak much more. For example, the increase in number of launches are taking place towards colonization of the other planets. And this is the primary theme. We want to go to moon and create a permanent habitat there and ensure there is a connectivity between Earth and moon, and then later travel to Mars. Another domain which is driving the space activity today is the low Earth orbit satellites, constellations, which is capable of providing communication services. And this is actually driving many of the activities in the space sector in terms of the numbers. So this is the way the global space powers in USA and Europe look at. But there are big disruptions, and everybody is worried. The Europe is looking at US in a with a scared look, because they are not able to compete as much as the private space ecosystem in US is capable of developing and showcasing. Europe is struggling still. So looking at this, let us look at our neighbor, China. And if you put in statistics these numbers, it's really something that we need to take note of. In terms of the operational satellites, in terms of the launch vehicle fleets that are being designed and developed, in terms of the money that they are investing in space sector, and in terms of the number of people that are employed for space sector, both in private and public, I think they are far, far ahead in terms of the numbers. And I'm not going into the details. But the most important part is the vision that they have put forth in various forums, and which are collected by us and then just looked at in very summary form. But there is much more that need to be talked about in terms of the launch capability they are building over the next many years. And also the communication network they are building as a global communication network to look at when China becomes a very powerful country in the future, and if they are the one who is going to lead the world in the future, how they should equip through space in creating certain infrastructure. That is something that they are envisioning, and they are working towards it in terms of building the global connectivity, in terms of global navigation capability, the space becoming an area where they will build the force system to strategize it, etc. So, and the connected defense and other capabilities equally coming up. So this is something that we need to look at and understand. I am not telling that we need to replicate or copy it, but then something that we need to keep it in our mind while we look at the space program. Another important area is the emerging space application segment, which is something very, very important. One is satellite connectivity is going to be a game changer in the future. Because satellite internet is already announced, which was something we thought that it is not going to happen that easily, but then the technology made it possible that we can have thousands of satellites seamlessly connected, trying to deliver internet directly to your handheld devices. This is a technology which is really possible. And it can also solve problems of large area connectivity. And also it will become global today. I think it was not that easily becoming global with the geostationary satellites, but the LEO satellites, it's really possible to connect it globally. And business intelligence through the data, big data, its analytics and decision-making process can also be happening through satellite-based systems. For example, a large amount of data collection is possible through satellite-based systems. It can operate on the data and generate intelligence and decision-making support. Here, the connect between communication, navigation, imaging will come together in terms of providing intelligence, basically geospatial intelligence, surveillance, and the corresponding communication network. So it's really a seamless connection of these three domains that are happening now in the space sector. Another important thing that we need to look at is the emergence of startups in space sector, especially in the application side. I'm just taking an Indian example. Two of the companies which I mentioned here, Satshura and Vasantara, looking at the images which are available globally, making use of those images, creating intelligence and providing solutions to various sectors, and really making a business case out of it. I think this is something that we should look at and watch and see. Something that the institutional organization like ISRO couldn't do, but then there are youngsters who are able to come out and show it as a business activity. We were looking at it as a national service activity, which was really wonderful that at a point in time in the creation of the organization, this was very, very important. But today we need to keep that part very, very strong because we need to support a huge nation, but we should also encourage people who are able to convert the whole activity into a business activity. So some of these examples are worth looking at it. Another important area which I mentioned earlier is the fusion of various domains. Communication, Earth observation, and PNT services are no longer independent entities. They are the one and the same. And they have to be connected seamlessly. And this will happen in some examples like the creation of smart city, which is actually envisioned like that only. So where there is a infrastructure monitoring, integration with the space system and communication system, and it will continuously monitor, provide services in various sectors. Look at smart manufacturing. Here again, satellites, can it be used? I think definitely it can be used. In terms of the sharing of the data across, in terms of design to product delivery through the IoT systems that you will be able to handle this. Similarly is the mobility domain where all the vehicles will be connected through the space-based systems in terms of programming, planning, scheduling, etc., etc. So each of the vehicle will get connected to the grid not far from now. Another domain is, of course, is a strategic domain where India has to be really a global power. We cannot ignore space at all, especially these three domains, the global communication. Today we have communication infrastructure is not really global. Our communication infrastructure is still national. And we need to convert how this national infrastructure to a global communication, a secured communication can be really, really possible all across the globe. It's also important that we need to have continuous observation capability all across the globe. We have been looking at India, but if you really want to be a safe nation, I think we need to have the capability to look the entire globe and make our own assessment. It's also important that our navigation capability should also grow from regional to global, because it is needed for our fleets which are going to be moving across the globe. We also developing reusable rockets where it will be possible to use it as a strategic tool for various activities in terms of providing required national security, to have our own demand-based launches, etc., etc. So space becomes a very integral part of the security of the nation. We are looking at how to build this over the next few years in building very different observation platforms to support this specific objective. I think this is something which I don't want to discuss too much. But then another domain is ability to launch satellites on demand. For example, small satellites, can you really launch when their time has come, in days together? Satellite is ready, launch vehicle is ready, and we should be able to put it in space and then look at it, make use of it for short lifespan satellites which will be able to serve certain purposes. So we are also demonstrating these type of things using our small satellite launch vehicle, which is going to be a game changer in terms of the ability to launch at faster pace to meet certain specific objectives, in addition to serving, of course, the commercial sector. With the opening up of the space sector and the new energy that has come in startups, I think the work done by them is really inspiring for people within ISRO itself. And I have been telling this everywhere, in every forum, wherever I go, I tell this, you should go and see those young people working to show, to build something really fantastic. It also reminds us of our younger days when we were also building similar way within the organization. For example, those two companies, Skyroot and Agnikul, who are building rockets, we imagine that it is not possible to build complex launch vehicles in private by these young people. We actually imagine that it is not possible. So this is something that has been corrected by them, I think, and this also ensures that there is a required amount of knowledge transfer from ISRO to them also taking place through various interactions. Through the retired people, through the active interactions with the serving people, I think they are also getting benefited to build systems of this nature. And I wish at this time all the very best to them to come out successful, not only in building smaller rockets, but also building heavier rockets to do operational satellite missions at a later point in time. And a mechanism has been now created in ISRO to support this activity and really going very well. Another area is supporting satellite building as well as launching them in ISRO's launch vehicles. Pixel, Dhruva, they have also been announcing their the growth over the time, and the next launch in PSLC 54, we will be launching Pixel as well as Dhruva satellites as part of this expansion in the private sector. Coming to the space observation for nation building, which continues to be one of the primary goal of the organization to support various thematic activities of the government of India in the flagship programs. Look at the Gati Shakti, as well as other programs, which is, for example, Amrit program, looking at the townships. So here, the main important thrust is whether the ISRO can it build satellites and support all this program for the future, or should we do a different model? This is something that we are discussing within the organization. So look at the startup ecosystem emerging in this country. Can they be tasked to do some of these governmental programs where they will source data from ISRO, also from privately launched small satellites, and they will be the application developers who will support the national thematic programs and not necessarily ISRO. So this is something that we would like to create a capability so that the private ecosystem also develop here using the institutional demands of the country. So this is something that is a new approach that we need to have. If you really look at the space observation, because we are looking at the space as for national development as a main theme, so here space observation comes as a very important theme. There are deficiencies. I think this is something that we need to address and understand. Of course, as far as the institutional launches of ISRO are concerned, there were discontinuities in launches. So many of the satellites which are launched are not continued later with similar sensors, so that there is no seamless transition from one generation to another, and that has not taken place. And another area is that though we have huge amount of data, it is not actually utilized because of the policy restrictions. For example, high resolution data which are there, enough with NRSC, are not disseminated at the speed that is needed and demanded by the industry. So we need to increase that speed at which they can be delivered, and also they can be made available faster than the current capability. And we also don't have streamlined mechanism for data processing and dissemination as expected by the industry today. And there is also technology gap in terms of the ability to provide high resolution and also high quality data to the user. So we look at how all this can be addressed in a centralized manner, and it is important that we create a Earth Observation Council of something of that nature, where all these people, the users, the ISRO, the private companies who are looking at the remote sensing data, and also the ministries, come together to create a better identification of the need, and also solutions are to be come out. So this is something we look at. We also are looking at how we can replace the costly satellites of today, the high valued remote sensing satellite, by low cost low life, codes-based component developed satellites so that they can be launched at faster pace. Actually, we need hundreds of Earth observation satellites. Today, we have just 14. With 14, we cannot serve the country. We need hundreds. And how we can create next hundreds in next few years? This is a question that I have been asking Shankaran, director of URSC, how to build them very, very fast and deploy them very fast so that we can serve the sector in quick succession. Look at the model of economy in Earth observation. This is again another big complex problem. If you look at communication sector, you know it is a revenue generating sector. Once you provide a service for communication, either 5G or satellite link, you can make a revenue out of it. But Earth observation is not an easy thing that you supply, you get images, and if you want to sell images, it will be really a complex process. That's why the government is announcing that Earth observation images are free and it is available to everybody. Then the question comes, when it is free, then where is economy, where is the business for the satellites? So if you look at the national observation plans of Europe or Americans, you will be able to see that it's actually funded by government and provided free to the user. So downline, once the user uses the data, it becomes a very big economic activity. So it has a multiplier effect later. So this aspect is not well understood today, and I want INAE to look at this, how we can showcase that the downline activity on data creates actually multiplier effects and it actually feeds to the economy. And then only the government will be willing to invest heavily in remote sensing data creation through launching appropriate satellites. So this is it's a big challenge for us to justify the need of increased number of satellites unless we showcase that the economic benefit to the country, to the government, to the decision maker, it will be difficult for us. So this is one theme which I would like you to discuss. Though we are building these satellites, these are some of the satellites that we are currently building specifically in Earth observation in various thematic areas, and of course this will be reviewed immediately, and then hopefully we will get approval to go ahead and build them. But then this is just not enough. In my assessment, these numbers are not enough. These are something that we need to achieve in next 2 to 3 years. But in 3 years, at least we must have at least 5 times of the satellites to support the emerging sector. So I believe this can happen only by making use of the support of the startups and the new companies who are ready to build satellites. So what I propose here is that we should become, that is government should become a lead user of the satellites which are built in the private company, and they should be launched by our rockets, and the entire data that comes out of it should become a repository for both the institutional users like governments and ministries as well as the private business operators to make use of it, so that we will be able to really enhance the penetration of EO into day-to-day life. And of course, to build these satellites, we need to have different approaches and which are getting demonstrated by many of the startups. I think we need to imbibe on this and then try to build such satellites in the days to come. I am not explaining too much into the detail. So this can happen only when we create an enabling satellite manufacturing ecosystem in this country. All the satellites for this nation were used to be fabricated only by ISRO laboratories at Space Application Center and URSC. But then now I am seeing new companies are starting building their clean rooms and creating infrastructure to build these satellites all across the country. And many global players are willing to come and then set up their manufacturing facilities in India. This is really a welcome change. And some of them are assuring me that by next year middle, they will have their first of their satellites, observation satellites will be ready for launch. And I invited them to launch in PSLV, of course, as a commercial opportunity. But that is not the goal that we are looking at. India should become a place where satellites can be manufactured at very, very low cost for global consumers. And if this has to happen, then many of the technologies in this domain should come to India. We should be able to handle it appropriately. We have the great skilled manpower, and we should also help these companies to become successful by becoming an anchor customer of their satellites for governmental programs. If you look at the communication satellites, we have many challenges. The challenges are that today, as far as ISRO is concerned, communication has become a purely commercial activity, and government tells us that you should launch communication satellite only when there is a business case. This is a very difficult case earlier. Earlier, we used to launch the satellite, then look for the business. Now the government says, you first show me the business case, then build the satellite. So this is a very difficult situation, especially technology in space communication is changing rapidly, and the 15-year-old life satellite for communication, something will not be acceptable to many people, because in 5 years, communication technology itself changes so much. So there are challenges, and we are trying to understand this and make note of it, and also create satellites which can adapt with the change in technology. See, earlier, for example, a certain satellite is built, it is kept there, and it serves that purpose for next 15 years. But in midway, if the technology changes, can you actually repurpose a satellite, reconfigure a satellite to do the changed circumstances, to serve the changed environment, change the density of communication which are required, new hotspots which are coming up in the next 5 years, can you serve it? So it requires intelligent satellites, software-driven satellites to serve such purposes. So this is one domain. Another is in terms of the navigation sector, the support that we have giving in navigation sector through NAVIC is actually limited to 1,500 kilometers beyond our boundary. And it is serving various sectors, but then its penetration is still not adequate, and we have already proposed to government that it has to expand in the coming years. And we should not only concentrate on the civilian side, our focus should be more on strategic side, which has a threat in terms of the GPS non-availability and other weaknesses that can come into the GPS system. But here we need many improvements. For example, the induction of the L1 band in this, and also higher levels of encryption which are required, which is going to happen in the coming days. And I believe we will be able to expand this to support the navigation services far beyond the Indian boundary, so that our friends in the strategic side will be able to make use of it for their support. So this is something that we have proposed, that we should increase the number of satellites. But what I want to tell today is this is just not enough. We should have a capability to expand it globally if we really need it. It depends on the way in which the country is going to grow. In the next 25 years, if our capability are going to grow to a level that we think that we need a global communication infrastructure, we need a global navigation infrastructure, we should be able to convert this IRNSS and NAVIC to a global system. For this, we need a combination of GEO and MEO system, and this is what we are currently trying to work out within the organization, proposed to the government. Let us build a GEO-MEO system which will be capable of supporting both regional as well as global navigation solutions. In terms of the science, I think all of you know, whatever we look at in space, this always has been a spare time activity. We continue to support the national missions of remote sensing and communication, but meantime we occasionally propose certain science missions, and we conduct them, we achieve them, and we hail them as great achievements. Going to Moon, Mars, etc. have been really wonderful. We are getting ready to launch the next Chandrayaan mission, also working on the Aditya L1, etc., etc. But here, what I would like to tell you in this forum is, I was asking some people from JPL, how you really envision the science objective of your country. What they said is, government commission national institutions like INAE of their science or engineering community. They will look at the whole requirement of the nation in terms of various science, engineering requirements. They come out with a vision document. And the vision document will be adopted by the government. And after the vision document, will have certain objectives and tasks which are to be done. And they select the agency or and scientific institution to achieve those things by tasking them to do as a national task. So if you have to convert the whole idea of science mission into that direction, I propose that today INAE should look at how science missions of this nation, especially space science mission, should be directed as an objective or assessment by International Science Academy or International Academy of Engineers to review this whole activity we have done so far as a national requirement, because it is simply not an objective for ISRO alone to conduct a mission to Mars and Venus and things like that. It is a national effort where there are so many laboratories involved, and there are educational institutions involved and researchers involved. It's a capability building of a nation. So I would urge that this has to be done as such an activity, and you can task ISRO, or sometimes you may task a private space agency to build a mission to Moon. I do not know tomorrow. So this approach is essential, and through this only we will be able to enhance space science mission and also gain tangible outcome out of this mission for long term. Another important point which I think very, very important for us is to look at launch vehicles in a very critical manner. See, we developed SLV3 and ASLV, but they were closed down after some time. Today, PSLV is there. PSLV has launched almost 50 launches and another 30 launches are in the offing, and we are very clear use of these 30 are already there. Beyond that, what? We address this, and I am of the opinion that PSLV has to retire one day. But whether it is today, tomorrow, another 10 years later, because it was developed in 1980s. And 1980s technology cannot be for 2030s. It is not correct. Because it has the technology as well as manufacturing, the cost associated systems also go through changes. Same is the case with GSLV. And GSLV Mark III is just a few years old. Now, if you look at the launch vehicle evolution, technology induction at appropriate time is essential. Otherwise, with the changing times, especially when everybody is able to bring down the cost of access to space substantially, traditional technology will not survive. Though you can say it is a national asset and you can continue to operate at a high cost, but I won't strongly recommend it. I think this is another area where we should look at it, how we can build a much better cost-effective launcher and allow our previous generation rockets to retire at a phased manner. Of course, the timeline I am not discussing here, but it's essential to bring it to our mind that it is important to retire them to build better systems for the future. In that direction, we are working on a new generation, next generation launch vehicle of India, which should be, in terms of the cost, it should be better, in terms of manufacturability, it should be better, in terms of reusability, it should be there, and we should be able to produce it much faster way than what we are doing today. And currently the teams are working on it, and I am not announcing any rocket today, but it is only to say that we are working on a new generation rocket which has to replace all of this at appropriate time. It is very important for us to work on it. But the model, how we should develop this rocket and how we should operationalize is another management issue. This technology is there, but then to execute it and then make it as an operational system, I suggest that it should go through a different model. The model should be that you should create a business model for this rocket. It should serve the purpose for which it is created, like launching the commercial satellite, launching the national missions, but also to bring about industry participation right at the beginning of the definition of the rocket itself, so that it will become manufacturing friendly, it should become operational friendly, and we create capability outside ISRO to build it, operate it, and launch it on a commercial manner. With the knowledge of ISRO at the backing for all of this activity, it is possible for industries to support and create this rocket as a national asset. And this can be operated for at least for sufficient longer time. Of course, it will also go through its generations at later point in time with the technology changes. I'm not explaining so much about it, but at least I have opened this idea to the industry captains today. Some of them are already aware of it. But I would like INAE also can look at it, how these themes, which I have now mentioned, can also be a topic of your discussion, and what type of right approaches in management of building future rockets can also be incorporated in our thinking process. Now look at another agency we have created, the New Space India Limited. It is a commercial arm of Department of Space, and this is tasked with building capability in manufacturing on operational systems, providing services, etc. And we are looking at how it can enhance its presence not only in India and into really a global presence to make a market what we are doing in space sector all across the globe, which will include building rockets on their own, which we have started by building the PSLVs through the industry consortium, also owning and operating satellites on their own. Possibly they may build their own satellite, and tomorrow I believe that NSIL will be the funding agency to ISRO to build their own satellites, and they should be able to generate the required revenue to do that. And also to create right approach of management approaches. For example, to create a PPP or a JV, we are not good at it as a department. This is one area which you have to work on a commercial aspect of how to bring in investment, how to bring in various partners who are interested in space sector to create a larger scale of activity. So this, I believe NSIL has this capability at least today, but then it has to be substantially expanded, and we look at how additional people with those core competence can come into NSIL to enable them to take up such activities. Finally, let me tell you, the most important part is human being, human resource. Though I mentioned about all this activity, and it is not possible unless in this domain. Space sector is such a sector where you cannot take chances. And if you face a failure, of course, all of us in this business know a failure is something very, very difficult to handle. And it requires a lot of explanation. And it also makes sure that how it happened and how we missed it gets into your dreams, into your sleep, and it creates so much of pain for everybody. It's not like other sectors where you have a tolerance to failure. For example, if you are developing an aircraft, of course you can do taxiing and then maybe move at a lower speed and then land. Until it actually demonstrates its full capability, you have enough of time to experiment on it and then show it, like an automobile. But unfortunately, rockets and satellites don't provide you that opportunity. The very first time it has to work correctly. And your ability to simulate its work in the ground is actually limited. Though you may be doing hundreds and thousands of simulations, it is never the same as actually it feels. So this has a complex problem, but that complexity is its beauty, and the complexity is that makes all of us work in this domain. But for this, we have to create people. And the people creation is something very, very important. And the transitioning of the people from government to private sector is actually happening today. And many of people from ISRO may move out and support those new companies and startups. But within the ISRO governmental system, we need to create that skilled manpower. We should also create manpower to support the emerging space system that is going to come up outside. So this requires some rethinking on the educational system that we are for aerospace and space sector, whether the R&D activities and industry and R&D connect that is existing today can also be enhanced. I also proposed this to IAST recently. Can it become a little more umbrella-like, which can handle this to create additional manpower creation for the industry? Skilling, can it be done through the ISRO system for the users who are the new players who are coming outside so that they don't fail? For example, if Skyroot or Aknik will make their launches and they do not succeed, it's actually a problem for the entire space ecosystem. We want them to succeed. So if you have to do that, then we need to have the support system existing within the whole of community. And we should understand it is not for an organization to grow, but it is for the entire space enterprise to grow. So we need to look at it very, very carefully. I have not created a roadmap on how we can solve this problem, but it remains as a major problem today. And I am seeing within space organization ISRO itself, the capabilities in various sectors actually move. Sometimes it is very strong, sometimes it is very weak. So we need to look at the internal process of creating skilled specialists in various domains who will be able to take decisions and drive new designs. This is also equally challenging. So every organization has its life cycles. It will go through various ups and downs. But as an organization, Indian Space Research Organization, Department of Space, it is our ability and skill to keep that level very, very high to handle complex problems of this nature. And it also should create an inspiring condition within the organization for everybody to work and contribute to build this capability. And I'm very happy today. I continue to work on this aspect of human capability development. It is something very, very important. So with this, let me thank you and wish all the very best to this conference. I believe some of the points which I mentioned here really get into your debate and discussions for appropriate assessment from you for use as an outcome of INAE this time. Thank you so much.
Thank you, sir, for the informative and inspirational words, where he clearly indicated the domains where we need to focus to ensure a bright future for the space ecosystem in India, and also laid out open challenges to this community, like how space-based services can be directly linked to economic growth. May I now request Dr. V. Narayanan, Director LPSC, Professor Indranil Manna, and Sri Shobhit Roy to join Chairman ISRO on the dais. Thank you, sir. Now, may I request Professor Indranil Manna, President INAE, to present a memento and Ponnada to Sri S. Somnath, Chairman ISRO. I also request Professor Indranil Manna to present a memento and Ponnada to Dr. V. Narayanan, Director LPSC. Sir, I again request Professor Indranil Manna to present a memento and Ponnada to Sri Lieutenant Colonel Shobit Rai, Member Secretary PCSA. Thank you, sir. Now may I request Sri S. Somnath, Chairman ISRO, to present a memento and Ponnada to Professor Indranil Manna, President INE. Thank you, sir. Now I request the dignitaries to remain seated for the vote of thanks.
Thank you, sir. Deputy Executive Director INAE and Member Secretary, Program Coordination Committee, Lieutenant Colonel Shobit Rai, retired, is a specialist on armored fighting vehicles and an expert on biomedical equipment. He has wide experience working in multiple combat zones across the country. He also held various leadership roles in the corporate sector after retirement. He holds a bachelor's degree in mechanical from Military College of Electronics and Mechanical Engineering, a master's degree in biomedical engineering from IIT Madras, and a qualification in management from IIM Ahmedabad. He has been engaged with Indian National Academy of Engineering as the officiating executive director since January 2020. Sir, I humbly invite you to propose the vote of thanks.
Respected Sri S. Somnath, Secretary, Department of Space and Chairman ISRO, Professor Indranil Manna, President INAE, former Presidents of INAE, Dr. P.S. Goyal, Dr. B.N. Suresh, Dr. Sanak Mishra sir, Directors of ISRO, that is Dr. V. Narayanan, Dr. Uni Krishnan Nair sir, Dr. Sam Dayal Dev, and Dr. Prakash Chauhan, industry leaders, Mr. J.D. Patil sir, Mr. Girish Wagh, Mr. Ramchandani, and other eminent industry leaders, esteemed fellows of INAE, panelists, scientists of ISRO, ladies and gentlemen, on behalf of Professor Indranil Manna, President INAE, it is my proud privilege to propose vote of thanks. I promise I won't stand between you and tea very long. First and foremost, express our deepest gratitude and regard to Honorable Shri Rajiv Chandrasekhar, though not being able to present physically here due to his pressing commitments, for delivering a profound, inspiring, and thought-provoking inaugural address in his unique perspective. We thank the Honorable Minister for his address. Our deepest gratitude and sincere thanks to Shri S. Somnath, Secretary, Department of Space, and Chairman ISRO, who is also a fellow of INAE, for kindly consenting to host the Engineers Conclave 2022 jointly with INAE. It is with utmost respect that we acknowledge his contributions. We are also wiser by listening to his keynote address. Our sincere gratitude is expressed to Dr. V. Narayanan, Director LBSC, and his colleagues for being the host organization and leaving no stone unturned for the effective planning and execution of Engineers Conclave 2022. I thank Professor Indranil Manna, President INA, for delivering the presidential address, which was befitting the August occasion. INA is indebted to the Program Coordination Committee, chaired by Dr. V. Narayanan and Professor Sivaji Chakravarti, Vice President INA, and members, namely Dr. Unikrishnan Nair, Dr. Sam Dayal Dev, Dr. Prakash Chauhan, Shri V.V.R. Shastri, Professor G. K. Ananta Suresh, and Shri A.T. Ramchandani, and the members of the organizing committee, chaired by Dr. V. Narayanan and Dr. Unikrishnan Nair, for their going into every minute detail in the planning, execution, overseeing and conduct of this event, which has led to this successful realization. We are extremely grateful to the coordinators for both the teams, namely Dr. Prakash Chauhan, Director NRSC ISRO, coordinator of Theme 1 for that is the Space for National Development, with the member Ms. Rajshri, and Shri Arun Ramchandani, FNAE, Executive Vice President and Head of Defense IC, Larsen and Toubro, coordinator of Theme 2 on transforming India into global manufacturing hub, along with Dr. B.H. Lakshmesh and Shri Manoj Kubal for planning the rich technical content with excellent speakers and session chairs for going into every detail of the technical program, which will, of course, ensure the success of the event. It is with deep respect that we thank the plenary speakers, session chairs, speakers for consenting to deliver their lectures and contributions that shall lead to fruitful deliberations and pertinent outcomes and shall fulfill the objectives of the event. We thank all the engineers, scientists, and staff coordinating the technical programs, administration, and logistic teams at ISRO to help realize this event, working tirelessly in the background like clockwork. Our appreciation is expressed to all the team members of various committees involved in planning and coordinating the event, including logistics and accommodation for the delegates. The event has been made special by participation of INA fellows, and we are extremely grateful and thankful to them for being always there for INA and enriching the programs and activities of INA by their gracious presence, especially today, that is the Engineers Conclave 2022, which is being held in physical mode after a gap of almost 2 years when it was last held at Bangalore. My grateful thanks to the sponsors of the event who are listed onto the dais here. Without them, the conclave may not have the correct flavor. And lastly, but not the least, Ms. Pratigya Laur, Research Officer at INA, and other INA team members working behind the scenes. On behalf of Professor Indranil Manna, President INA, I once again thank you, all present, and wish dignitaries of fruitful deliberations and a pleasant stay. Thank you, and Jai Hind.
Thank you, sir. Dr. S. Unikrishnan Nair, Director VSSC, Director IAST, and Dr. Sam Dayal Dev, Director IASU, have kindly consented to inaugurate the exhibition. Dr. S. Unikrishnan Nair, an expert in launch vehicle mechanisms, acoustic protection systems, and payload fairings, was associated with Human Spaceflight Program since its inception. He is a recipient of multiple awards for his contribution towards space capsule recovery experiment and crew module atmospheric re-entry experiments.
Dr. D. Sam Dayala Dev, Director ISRO, Inertial Systems Unit, has been the chief designer of the Advanced Inertial Navigation System and was the chief architect for mechanisms of numerous scientific payloads of ISRO. He adopted aggressive initiatives to indigenize electronic components involving Indian academia and industries. He has many awards, publications, and many patents as the first inventor to his credit. The inaugural function will end up with the national anthem, and all are requested to kindly be seated for a few announcements thereafter. Now, I request everyone to rise for the national anthem.
जनगण मन अधिनायक जय हे भारत भाग्य विधाता पंजाब सिंध गुजरात मराठा द्राविड उत्कल गंगा विंध्य हिमाचल यमुना गंगा चञ्चल जलधितरङ्गा तव शुभ नामे जागे तव शुभ आशिष मागे गाहे तव जय गाथा जनगण मंगलदायक जय हे भारत भाग्य विधाता जय हे जय हे जय हे जय 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 हे
Thank you. Now we have come to the end of inaugural function. May I request Dr. S. Unnikrishnan Nair, Director VSSE, and Dr. Sam Dayaladev, Director IASU, to jointly inaugurate the exhibition and request everyone to proceed to the venue after them. After visiting the exhibition hall, all are requested to enjoy the high tea arranged in the food court and foyer of this auditorium. Exhibition is arranged outside this auditorium. For the kind attention of press and media personnel, press meet is arranged with dignitaries at HRD conference hall in the main auditorium. Once again, thank you all for gracing this occasion and wish you all a very good day.
इंजीनियर्स कॉन्क्लेव 2022 के उद्घाटन समारोह में भाग लेने के लिए धन्यवाद।
चलो ना